The woman they said would never survive Delta Force selection just led her team through the most dangerous rescue operation in modern military history. 18 hours earlier, she was being written off by commanders who thought her quiet demeanor meant she lacked the killer instinct required for elite warfare. They had no idea that some warriors forged their strength in silence, waiting for the moment when actions speak louder than assumptions. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Everyone who dismissed Captain Maya Torres was about to discover why underestimating someone based on first impressions can be a fatal mistake. Because Maya wasn't just any soldier. She was the daughter of Phoenix 6. And today the Phoenix would rise through her daughter's unwavering leadership. The pre-dawn darkness hung heavy over Fort Bragg's most classified compound, where America's most elite warriors gathered for briefings that could reshape global conflicts. The operations center buzzed with controlled urgency as intelligence reports streamed in from hostile territory, each update more grim than the last. This wasn't a place for conventional soldiers or standard military thinking. Every person in this room had earned their place through extraordinary sacrifice, proven capability, and the kind of mental toughness that separates legends from ordinary humans. Colonel James Blackwood commanded this domain with the authority of a man who had personally executed operations that existed only in classified files. His weathered face bore the scars of 25 years in special operations, each line etched by missions that had pushed human endurance beyond theoretical limits. Around him, Delta Force operators moved with the practiced efficiency of predators who had learned to thrive in environments where hesitation meant death and weakness invited disaster. When Captain Maya Torres entered that briefing room, she might as well have been walking into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. Her compact frame and methodical approach to equipment preparation marked her as different in a world where physical intimidation and aggressive posturing often substituted for actual competence. She possessed an unusual combination of nervous energy that betrayed her awareness of the hostility around her, yet an underlying confidence that suggested she understood something about warfare that her critics had never grasped. The mission briefing that would change everything began with stark intelligence that made even hardened operators shift uncomfortably in their seats. 12 American humanitarian workers had been captured by a terrorist cell operating in the mountains of northern Pakistan, a region so dangerous that previous rescue attempts had resulted in complete mission failure and significant casualties. The hostages were being held in a compound that intelligence analysts described as virtually impregnable, surrounded by natural barriers that made traditional assault approaches nearly impossible. Colonel Blackwood felt an immediate surge of irritation when Maya was assigned as team leader for the operation. Something about her quiet competence reminded him of failures from his past, moments when he had been outperformed by individuals he had initially dismissed as inadequate. Her calm response to the mission parameters, her methodical questions about enemy capabilities, and her refusal to engage in the typical bravado that characterized pre-mission discussions all served to reinforce his belief that she lacked the aggressive mindset required for successful special operations. Major Rick Castellanos, still carrying the psychological weight of a failed rescue mission that had cost the lives of 3 team members, saw in Maya's reserved demeanor the same hesitation that he blamed for his previous operational failure. The guilt that consumed him had transformed into a bitter resentment toward anyone who displayed what he perceived as weakness under pressure. His aggressive challenges to Maya's tactical suggestions were driven not by professional concern, but by his desperate need to project strength in areas where he felt most vulnerable. Staff Sergeant Tommy Kim, the newest member of the unit and desperate to prove his belonging in this elite community, felt the familiar pressure to choose between his instinctive respect for competence and his overwhelming desire for acceptance by the dominant personalities in the room. His immigrant background had taught him to value careful planning and methodical execution, but the culture of Delta Force seemed to reward those who spoke loudest and projected the most confidence, regardless of their actual tactical knowledge. The atmosphere in the briefing room shifted from professional skepticism to active hostility, as Blackwood decided to make Maya's appointment a teaching moment about the realities of special operations warfare. His voice carried the weight of rank and the cruel certainty of a man who had never been challenged by someone he considered fundamentally unsuited for elite combat. Perhaps the Pentagon thinks this is some kind of diversity experiment, he suggested, with barely concealed contempt, but real warfare doesn't care about political correctness or social engineering. Castellanos, his grief and guilt transformed into misplaced aggression, questioned whether Maya had ever been in actual combat, or if her selection had been influenced by factors other than combat effectiveness. His voice cracked with the pain of remembering teammates who had died under his command, pain that he couldn't acknowledge directly, but projected onto anyone who reminded him of his perceived failures. Kim, abandoning every principle his family had taught him about respect and careful judgment, wondered aloud if they should request a replacement team leader before the mission parameters were finalized, his desperate need for acceptance overriding his moral compass and tactical common sense. Maya's response was the kind of silence that spoke volumes about her character and experience. Not the silence of someone who had been intimidated into submission, but the quiet confidence of a warrior who had learned that some battles aren't worth fighting, and that true strength often manifests as restraint rather than aggression. She continued her methodical review of intelligence reports, her questions precise and tactical, as if she were preparing for something far more significant than a simple briefing room confrontation. The growing tension in the room attracted the attention of other operators who began to gather, their curiosity piqued by the unusual dynamic playing out between the newly appointed team leader and the established hierarchy. Cell phones discreetly appeared as some personnel prepared to document what they assumed would be either Maya's resignation or a spectacular demonstration of her unsuitability for leadership in high-pressure situations. The betting began immediately, with most wagering on how quickly Maya would request reassignment rather than face the impossible mission with a hostile team. But Master Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez, the senior non-commissioned officer with 30 years of special operations experience, noticed something in Maya's approach that made him pause and reconsider his initial assessment. The way she analyzed terrain features in the satellite imagery, her automatic consideration of multiple contingency plans, her breathing pattern that remained steady despite the increasing hostility around her, all suggested someone with serious operational experience and unshakable mental discipline. Blackwood, emboldened by the support of his subordinates and driven by memories of past humiliations that he couldn't fully understand, issued his challenge with the cruel confidence of someone who believed he held all the advantages. Standard team leadership evaluation, he declared. Stakes designed to humiliate rather than assess. If Maya couldn't demonstrate tactical competence in a simulated scenario, she would be removed from the mission and recommended for transfer out of special operations entirely. If she somehow managed to pass, she would be allowed to lead the actual rescue mission with a team that clearly doubted her capabilities. The terms were so obviously unfair that even some of the more experienced operators exchanged uncomfortable glances, recognizing that this had moved beyond professional evaluation into personal vendetta territory. Maya's simple acceptance of the challenge carried no negotiation, no complaint, just the quiet dignity of someone who had faced far worse than the petty cruelty of insecure colleagues, and understood that some battles could only be won through performance rather than words. The first tactical exercise changed the entire dynamic in ways that no one had anticipated. Maya's approach to the simulated hostage rescue scenario demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that made the casual mockery die in throats and replaced confident dismissal with uncomfortable uncertainty. Her initial assessment of the scenario identified vulnerabilities in the enemy position that the exercise designers hadn't fully considered, suggesting tactical solutions that were both innovative and practical. Blackwood dismissed her performance as theoretical knowledge without practical application, but his confidence began to waver as Maya's second exercise revealed not just tactical competence, but genuine strategic innovation. Her ability to adapt to changing circumstances, coordinate multiple elements simultaneously, and maintain mission focus under artificial pressure impressed even the most skeptical observers. The room noise decreased from entertainment-focused commentary to nervous whispers as those with real operational experience began to recognize something extraordinary unfolding before their eyes. When Maya requested permission to demonstrate advanced tactical planning using a worst-case scenario modification, Blackwood agreed with diminishing enthusiasm, sensing that his simple humiliation exercise was becoming something else entirely. The results of her complex tactical problem-solving created the kind of silence that precedes thunder, heavy with the weight of recognition that everything they thought they knew about their new team leader had been fundamentally wrong. Rodriguez approached the tactical display with the reverence of a professional examining exceptional work, his face reflecting growing respect and understanding. The solutions Maya had developed spoke louder than any words could. Each tactical innovation, a clear demonstration that her quiet demeanor masked capabilities that surpassed those of most operators in the room. Blackwood felt his first real moment of doubt as Rodriguez whispered something that made his eyes widen with shock, his confident smile finally dying as he realized he might have made a terrible mistake. Maya continued working as if nothing unusual had happened, her calm demeanor now unsettling rather than amusing because everyone was watching for different reasons entirely. The woman they had dismissed as unsuitable for special operations was systematically destroying every assumption they had made about her capabilities, and something in the way she handled complex tactical problems suggested they had only seen the beginning of her actual qualifications. The question that hung in the air, unspoken but understood by everyone present, was what Rodriguez had whispered to Colonel Blackwood that had so dramatically changed his expression. The answer would shatter every preconception they held about the quiet woman who had walked into their world with nothing but methodical competence, and the kind of confidence that only comes from those who have nothing left to prove to small minds with loud voices. But here's what Colonel Blackwood didn't know, and what the assembled Delta Force operators were about to discover about the woman standing calmly at the tactical display, methodically solving problems that would challenge the most experienced special operations planners. Rodriguez's whispered revelation hit Blackwood like a physical blow, connecting Maya's tactical brilliance to memories he had buried deep in his professional consciousness. The name Phoenix 6 carried weight that transcended normal military hierarchy, instantly connecting Maya's methodical approach and impossible competence to a legend that had shaped modern special operations doctrine. Commander Isabella Torres had been more than just an exceptional officer. She had been Blackwood's mentor during his early years in special operations, the woman who had transformed a promising but undisciplined lieutenant into someone capable of leading men in the most dangerous situations imaginable. The crowd fell silent as Rodriguez addressed them with the gravity reserved for military royalty, his voice carrying decades of experience and hard-earned respect. "Gentlemen," he announced, "meet Captain Maya Torres, daughter of Commander Isabella Torres," and watched as understanding dawned on faces that had been twisted with mockery just moments before. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating, as each operator began to process the implications of what they had just witnessed. Isabella Torres wasn't just any special operations commander. She was the architect of modern hostage rescue doctrine, the woman who had revolutionized close-quarters combat techniques and saved hundreds of lives through tactical innovations that had been adopted by elite units worldwide. Maya hadn't just inherited her mother's tactical mind. She had inherited a legacy that made every person in that room feel smaller and less significant than they had ever imagined possible. Blackwood felt his carefully constructed world crumble as the full weight of his mistake crashed over him like a psychological tsunami. The memories came flooding back with devastating clarity. Lieutenant Blackwood struggling with tactical planning during advanced training courses, Isabella's patient voice explaining that true leadership comes from understanding rather than intimidation. She had seen potential in him that others had missed, recommending him for positions that had ultimately shaped his entire career trajectory. Her final words to him echoed across the decades with prophetic accuracy. "You'll make an exceptional commander if you remember that strength comes in many forms." Now, 25 years later, he had become everything she had warned against, attempting to humiliate her daughter in front of the very men she had died protecting. The shame was overwhelming and immediate, cutting through years of accumulated arrogance and forced bravado. The revelation of Maya's operational record hit the assembled personnel like a series of coordinated strikes, each accomplishment more devastating to their preconceptions than the last. Special Operations Command Honor Graduate, 43 successful missions across multiple theaters, trainer of elite units in advanced tactical planning, recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross, and 3 Bronze Stars with Valor devices. Her call sign, Viper 7, was whispered with the kind of reverence usually reserved for operational legends. Castellanos began to break down emotionally as he realized that his grief-fueled attacks had been directed at exactly the kind of officer his fallen teammates would have respected and followed without question. The shame of his behavior overwhelmed his ability to maintain professional composure, and he found himself confronting not just his treatment of Maya, but his entire approach to processing the trauma that had been driving his recent decisions. The story of Maya's tragic background emerged through Rodriguez's careful account, each detail adding emotional weight to the growing understanding of what they had witnessed. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Maya had been her mother's operations officer during Isabella's final mission, the Kandahar incident in 2018, that had gone catastrophically wrong when intelligence failures led to a massacre of the rescue team. Isabella had remained behind to coordinate the evacuation of surviving personnel. Her final radio transmission burned into Maya's memory forever. Viper 7, get our people home. I'll hold the line. Maya had carried the guilt of that survival for 4 years, her confidence shattered by the weight of watching her mother sacrifice herself so that others could live. The psychological trauma had driven her from special operations entirely, and her recent return represented a personal battle that none of them had understood or appreciated. Blackwood experienced a complete psychological breakdown as the full scope of Isabella's mentorship flooded back to him. Her patient teaching had transformed a promising but arrogant young officer into someone worthy of commanding others, someone capable of making life-and-death decisions with wisdom rather than mere aggression. Every mission honors those we protect, she had told him during his promotion ceremony, personally pinning his special operations badge with a prophecy that would haunt him forever. You'll make an exceptional commander if you remember that strength comes in many forms. Standing there watching Isabella's daughter demonstrate the very qualities her mother had tried to teach him, Blackwood realized he had dishonored not just Maya, but the memory of the woman who had shaped his understanding of leadership and sacrifice. Kim's identity crisis played out in real time as he recognized the magnitude of his betrayal, not just of Maya, but of the immigrant parents who had sacrificed everything to give him the opportunity to serve with honor and distinction. His father's words about respecting those who had served echoed in his mind as he realized he had abandoned every principle his family held sacred in his desperate quest for acceptance by people whose approval wasn't worth having. The cultural weight of his shame was crushing, but it also provided moral clarity. He could choose integrity over popularity, honor over acceptance, and begin the long journey back to the man his parents had raised him to be. The realization that he had become everything they had warned him against was devastating, but it also offered hope for redemption through changed behavior rather than empty apologies. The dramatic irony reached its peak as everyone realized they had not just challenged a qualified officer, but the daughter of a legend who had personally influenced many of their careers and shaped their understanding of what special operations could accomplish. Maya's silence was now understood not as weakness or uncertainty, but as the restraint of someone who had learned that some battles aren't worth fighting, and that true strength often speaks through actions rather than words. Her methodical approach to tactical problems was the mark of someone who had been trained by the best and had learned lessons in the crucible of actual combat operations. When Maya announced her intention to demonstrate advanced tactical planning using her mother's preferred methodology, tackling a scenario that would challenge the limits of special operations capability, Rodriguez's quiet comment carried the weight of prophecy fulfilled. Just like Isabella taught her, the witnesses understood they were seeing history repeat itself, not just exceptional tactical planning, but the resurrection of a legend they thought had died in the mountains of Afghanistan. Cell phone recordings that had begun as mockery now captured respect and admiration, and word began to spread throughout the special operations community with the speed of digital communication and the staying power of genuine inspiration. Blackwood's attempted redemption began with an emotional confession that revealed the full depth of his failure as both an officer and a human being, his voice breaking as he disclosed how Isabella had saved his career and shaped his understanding of what leadership actually meant. The complete revelation of his failures as a young officer, Isabella's patient mentorship, and his present shame at betraying her lessons through his treatment of her daughter, poured out in a desperate attempt to somehow undo the psychological damage he had caused. "I dishonored her memory," he whispered, the words carrying the weight of a man who had finally understood the magnitude of his professional and personal failure. But redemption, like respect, cannot be demanded or negotiated. It must be earned through consistent actions rather than dramatic words, and Blackwood was just beginning to understand the long journey that lay ahead of him. The deeper truth about Maya's return to special operations began to emerge as the team processed what they had witnessed. She hadn't come back to prove anything to skeptical colleagues, or to rehabilitate her reputation in the eyes of people whose opinions shouldn't matter. She had returned to prove something to herself, to face the demons that had kept her away from operational duty for 4 years, and to honor her mother's sacrifice by continuing the mission of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The briefing room had become her personal battlefield for recovery, and their hostility had inadvertently provided the test she needed to take the first step toward healing and renewed purpose. When she completed her tactical planning demonstration, achieving solutions that surpassed standard special operations doctrine while maintaining operational security and minimizing risk to personnel, the tears in her eyes were not from shame or frustration, but from the recognition that she still carried her mother's gift for tactical innovation and that Isabella's sacrifice had not been meaningless. This is what happens when assumptions based on appearance and demeanor collide with reality forged in the crucible of actual combat experience and professional competence. The transformation from contempt to respect was complete and immediate, but Maya's demonstration of tactical capability was far from over. What she would accomplish in the actual mission would cement her reputation in the annals of special operations history and prove that some legends are born not from individual heroics, but from the quiet competence that enables others to achieve the impossible. The immediate aftermath of Rodriguez's revelation transformed the operations center from a place of hostility into something approaching a sacred space, with Blackwood publicly acknowledging his catastrophic error in front of the entire assembled team. His emotional confession about Isabella's profound impact on his career development carried the weight of genuine remorse, but words alone could not repair the damage done to his reputation among peers who had witnessed his complete professional collapse. Castellanos experienced a total psychological breakdown as he shared the story of his fallen teammates for the first time since the failed mission, the realization that he had become everything his dead brothers in arms had fought against, serving as a catalyst for genuine emotional healing. The recognition that he had projected his own failures onto someone who embodied the very principles his teammates had died defending created a moment of moral clarity that would reshape his entire approach to leadership and teamwork. Kim's cultural shame at betraying his family's fundamental values led to a moment of painful self-recognition, where he chose integrity over acceptance, beginning his transformation from desperate follower to principled leader. The weight of disappointing parents who had sacrificed everything for his opportunities was crushing, but it also provided the motivation needed to become the man they had always believed he could be. The base commander, General Patricia Morrison, appeared with the kind of timing that suggested she had been monitoring the situation from its inception through security cameras and personnel reports. Her personal knowledge of Isabella Torres added another layer of validation to Maya's credentials, and her immediate offer of unlimited operational support represented official recognition of what everyone had just witnessed. The institutional backing transformed Maya's position from contested appointment to unquestioned authority. Blackwood faced immediate formal review for unprofessional conduct and abuse of authority, but the real punishment was the knowledge that he had failed to live up to the example set by the woman who had once believed in his potential for greatness. The psychological weight of that failure would prove more devastating than any administrative action the military could impose. Maya's status underwent a complete transformation from unwelcome outsider to respected leader, with personnel who had mocked her tactical approaches now requesting detailed explanations of her methodologies. The shift in attitude was immediate and profound, as operators who had dismissed her as unsuitable began to understand that they were in the presence of tactical genius that transcended their previous understanding of special operations capability. Younger personnel requested mentorship from a living legend, while veterans shared stories of Isabella Torres that painted a picture of a woman whose influence had extended far beyond her confirmed operational successes. Maya became an unofficial base legend within hours, her story spreading through military communication networks with the speed of digital transmission and the staying power of genuine inspiration that transcends normal military gossip. The ripple effect extended beyond Fort Bragg as secure communications carried news of the revelation to special operations communities worldwide. Military blogs featured preliminary reports of her return, and she became a symbol of hidden excellence that challenges assumptions about capability and competence. The psychological impact on the special operations community was immediate and profound, forcing a reconsideration of how talent is identified and nurtured. Blackwood's personal transformation began with Isabella's lessons resurfacing in his memory with devastating clarity, reminding him of the leader he had once aspired to become before ego and institutional politics had corrupted his fundamental understanding of what leadership actually meant. His career redirection toward mentoring and teaching represented more than just damage control or administrative reassignment. It was a genuine attempt to honor Isabella's memory by becoming the kind of leader she had tried to teach him to be decades earlier. Castellanos found unexpected healing through his emotional breakdown, beginning to process his survivor's guilt constructively, rather than projecting it onto others who reminded him of his perceived failures. The therapeutic value of finally acknowledging his trauma opened pathways to recovery that had been blocked by years of denial and misplaced aggression. Kim's redemption arc accelerated as he chose to become an advocate for respectful treatment of all personnel, using his own shame as a teaching tool for other young officers struggling with similar pressures to conform rather than maintain their principles. His transformation from follower to leader became a model for others facing the difficult choice between popularity and integrity. Maya's gradual opening to the respectful personnel around her marked the beginning of her own healing process, as she began sharing tactical knowledge with eager students and telling carefully selected stories about her mother's innovative techniques. Teaching others became a pathway to processing her own trauma, and she found renewed purpose in honoring Isabella's memory through the transmission of knowledge and skills that had once been used to protect innocent lives. The community that formed around Maya was organic and genuine, built on mutual respect rather than fear, understanding rather than assumption, and shared commitment to excellence rather than political maneuvering. The training sessions that began spontaneously transformed the culture of the entire Special Operations community, with Maya conducting impromptu tactical seminars that demonstrated advanced techniques and corrected fundamental errors in standard doctrine. Her patience with struggling personnel and ability to build confidence through positive reinforcement stood in stark contrast to the military's traditional approach to training, which often relied on intimidation and psychological pressure rather than genuine skill development. The ripple effect of her influence extended far beyond tactical planning, as her example of quiet strength and dignified response to adversity became a model for others to follow in their own professional and personal development. Command recognition came swiftly and decisively, with General Morrison offering formal consultation positions and unlimited access to all classified training facilities and resources. The Pentagon's immediate interest in Maya's tactical innovations opened doors that had been closed since her resignation from active duty 4 years earlier, and Hollywood producers seeking to option her story rights only confirmed what everyone in the Special Operations community already understood. They had witnessed something extraordinary, something that would be remembered and retold for generations. But Maya's response to newfound fame and recognition was as measured and thoughtful as her response to initial hostility had been, declining media attention with the same quiet dignity that had marked her entire professional career. The personal healing that took place in the hours following the revelation was perhaps more significant than the professional vindication, as Maya visited the base memorial wall where she found her mother's name engraved among the fallen heroes. Leaving fresh flowers and her mother's final letter, she spoke to Isabella's photograph for the first time since the military funeral, promising to honor her sacrifice by continuing to serve in whatever capacity would best protect innocent lives. The whispered conversation between mother and daughter, separated by death but united in purpose and shared commitment to service, marked the true beginning of Maya's psychological recovery. The community that embraced Maya extended beyond the military to include base families, military spouses, and children who wanted to hear carefully edited stories about modern warfare from someone who had actually lived through its realities. Her polite refusal of most media attention only increased the mystique surrounding her return to active duty, and local news outlets found themselves reporting on a modern legend who preferred action to publicity and substance to recognition. The professional vindication that followed was impressive in its scope and immediate in its implementation. Military instructors from elite units worldwide sought her tactical techniques. Special operations teams requested training sessions to learn her methodologies, and war colleges wanted her curriculum input for future officer development programs. But Maya remained focused on the personal healing that came through service to others, rather than personal advancement or professional recognition. Maya's journey from grief-stricken survivor to purposeful leader demonstrated how healing happens not through forgetting the traumatic past, but through transforming pain into purpose and loss into legacy. Her story reminded everyone who witnessed it that true heroism often wears ordinary clothes and speaks in measured tones rather than dramatic proclamations, and that the most powerful demonstrations of strength often come from those who have already proven themselves and have nothing left to prove to others. The mission briefing that followed the emotional revelations carried a different energy entirely, as Maya stood before her team with the confidence that comes from earned respect rather than imposed authority. No longer defending her qualifications or justifying her presence, she was preparing to lead a rescue operation that would test every skill she had learned and every lesson her mother had taught her about leadership under extreme pressure. The intelligence update painted an even grimmer picture than the initial briefing had suggested, with satellite imagery revealing that the terrorist compound had been reinforced since the hostages were taken, and that additional enemy fighters had arrived to strengthen the defensive positions. Even her most ardent supporters worried about the possibility of mission failure, understanding that success would require not just tactical brilliance, but the kind of leadership that inspires ordinary soldiers to achieve extraordinary results. Maya positioned herself at the tactical display and selected her mother's operational methodology, the same systematic approach Isabella had used during her legendary career, carrying the emotional weight of family tradition and the technical challenge of adapting historical techniques to modern operational requirements. The planning session that followed would determine not just the fate of 12 innocent hostages, but Maya's own journey from survivor to leader. Blackwood approached Maya privately for a final confession that would complete his transformation from antagonist to supporter, his voice barely above a whisper as he revealed information that would reshape her understanding of her mother's final mission. "Your mother's last communication wasn't just tactical coordination," he admitted, the words coming with obvious difficulty and genuine pain. "She specifically mentioned someone who would need protection and guidance someday, and I realize now she was talking about you." His promise to spend the remainder of his career honoring Isabella's lessons represented genuine redemption, the kind that comes not from forgiveness alone, but from fundamentally changed behavior and renewed commitment to principled leadership. Castellanos stood with Maya as she prepared for the mission briefing, his presence offering support born from shared understanding of loss and the common bond of those who have survived when others didn't. His transformation from bitter antagonist to trusted teammate provided proof that people can change when confronted with the magnitude of their mistakes and given the opportunity to choose a better path forward. Kim's growth was evident in his cultural pride and newfound integrity, his choice to guide others toward respectful behavior representing the kind of leadership his parents had always hoped he would demonstrate. His transformation from desperate follower to principled leader provided inspiration for other young officers struggling with similar pressures to conform rather than maintain their moral compass. The planning ritual Maya performed before presenting her tactical solution was sacred in its deliberation and profound in its connection to family tradition. Her mother's systematic approach to problem-solving, the methodical consideration of multiple contingencies, the emphasis on protecting personnel while accomplishing the mission objectives, every element was deliberate and meaningful, connecting past expertise to present challenges in a demonstration that transcended mere tactical planning. The mission plan Maya presented was nothing short of revolutionary, incorporating tactical innovations that challenged conventional special operations doctrine while maintaining operational security and maximizing the probability of mission success. Her approach addressed the terrain challenges that had defeated previous rescue attempts, neutralized the defensive advantages that made the compound nearly impregnable, and created multiple contingency plans for every conceivable complication. The stunned silence that followed her presentation stretched across what felt like eternity, as experienced operators processed tactical solutions they had never considered and recognized the genius inherent in approaches that seemed obvious only after they had been explained. When the room finally erupted in understanding and approval, their responses carried the weight of witnessing something that would be analyzed and studied for decades. Even Blackwood offered genuine respect through a formal salute that carried the full weight of his rank and recognition of superior tactical capability, his gesture marking the completion of his journey from arrogant antagonist to humbled supporter. Rodriguez's silent nod of approval spoke louder than any words could express, representing validation from someone whose opinion carried more weight than formal authority structures. Maya's emotional response to the acceptance and support was controlled but visible, her tears marking not triumph over adversaries, but relief at finally finding a community that understood and valued her contributions. The mission briefing concluded with detailed assignments and timeline coordination, but the real accomplishment was the transformation of a hostile group into a unified team committed to mission success and mutual support. The tactical innovations Maya shared with her team created a living memorial to her mother's legacy, transforming personal knowledge into collective capability and ensuring that Isabella's contributions to special operations would continue through future generations. The teaching moment that followed was more than instruction or knowledge transfer. It represented the passing of sacred trust from one generation to the next, the continuation of a tradition that valued excellence over ego and substance over recognition. This symbolic gesture of incorporating Isabella's photograph into the mission planning materials created a permanent reminder that would inspire not just this operation, but future missions where the stakes demanded extraordinary performance. The annual tactical competition Maya proposed, named the Phoenix Memorial Exercise, would ensure that her mother's legacy would endure long after the last witness to this transformation had retired from service. The quiet revolution that began with Maya's return would transform not just the culture of one unit, but the entire special operations community's approach to leadership development, talent recognition, and the fundamental understanding that capability comes in many forms and should never be judged by superficial characteristics or preconceived assumptions. The network that formed around Maya was organic and powerful, as veterans from multiple services reached out to share their own stories of Isabella's influence and find healing through community connection. Support systems developed naturally, creating a movement toward openness and emotional honesty that challenged the traditional military culture of silence and emotional suppression. Stories of other hidden heroes began to surface throughout the special operations community, each one adding to the growing understanding that strength manifests in many forms, and that the most effective warriors often fight their greatest battles in silence, supporting others rather than seeking personal recognition or advancement. Maya's transformation from grieving daughter to inspirational leader provided a model for others struggling with similar trauma and loss. Her embrace of the leadership role, combined with her refusal to be defined or limited by past tragedy, demonstrated that healing was possible even for those who had lost everything and that purpose could be found through service to others rather than personal advancement or revenge. The bridge she built between generations of warriors created a pathway for knowledge transfer that honored the past while preparing for future challenges. The final mission briefing Maya conducted was dedicated to all fallen heroes whose sacrifices had made their current opportunity possible, a perfect synthesis of tactical innovation and emotional connection that elevated her from skilled planner to inspirational leader. The moment became instant military folklore, the kind of leadership demonstration that would be remembered and analyzed long after the specific tactical details had been superseded by new developments. Her quiet preparation for the actual mission, without fanfare or dramatic speeches, only added to the growing legend surrounding her return to active duty, proving that true leaders create followership through competence rather than charisma, through substance rather than style. The transformation was complete, but the real test lay ahead in the mountains of Pakistan, where theory would meet reality and leadership would be measured not in briefing rooms, but in life-and-death decisions under extreme pressure. Maya drove away from the final planning session as the sun painted the sky in shades of determination and hope, her silhouette against the sunset representing the bridge between past tragedy and future possibility, between individual loss and collective purpose. The encrypted communication from Pentagon leadership waiting on her secure phone suggested that new opportunities awaited beyond this single mission, new chances to serve and teach and heal through purposeful action. Behind her, the base flag flew at full staff in honor of renewed purpose and restored faith in the power of principled leadership. And the operations center that had witnessed her transformation buzzed with activity as final preparations began for a mission that would test everything they had learned about trust, competence, and the power of unified effort toward a common goal. The helicopter blades cut through the pre-dawn darkness above the Pakistan mountains, carrying Maya's team toward a rescue operation that would either validate everything she had promised or destroy the fragile trust that had been rebuilt in the aftermath of revelation. The intelligence reports crackling through their headsets painted an increasingly dangerous picture, with enemy reinforcements arriving throughout the night and defensive positions being strengthened with each passing hour. Maya sat in focused silence, her mind running through contingency scenarios while her team members processed their own preparations for what everyone understood would be the most challenging operation of their careers. The terrain below was unforgiving, a maze of rocky outcroppings and narrow valleys that had defeated previous rescue attempts and claimed the lives of operators who had underestimated the tactical advantages it provided to defending forces. Blackwood monitored communications from the Tactical Operations Center, his voice steady and professional as he coordinated support elements and maintained situational awareness for the team. His transformation from antagonist to dedicated supporter was complete, but the real test of his redemption would come through his performance under pressure when lives hung in the balance and split-second decisions determined success or failure. Castellanos checked and rechecked his equipment with the methodical precision of someone who had learned that preparation could mean the difference between bringing teammates home alive or watching them die due to preventable failures. His grief had been transformed into protective determination, channeling his pain over past losses into absolute commitment to preventing future casualties through superior preparation and execution. Kim maintained communications with intelligence assets, his immigrant work ethic and attention to detail providing crucial updates about enemy movements and defensive preparations. His journey from desperate follower to principled team member was evident in his calm professionalism and unwavering focus on mission success rather than personal advancement or recognition. Rodriguez served as the tactical anchor for the operation, his 30 years of experience providing stability and wisdom that balanced Maya's innovative approaches with time-tested methodologies. His quiet confidence in Maya's leadership had become the foundation upon which the entire team's trust was built, and his presence provided psychological security for younger operators who were still processing the magnitude of what they were attempting. The insertion point Maya had selected defied conventional special operations doctrine, requiring the team to approach the compound through terrain that intelligence analysts had declared impassable for military operations. Her tactical innovation involved using the very obstacles that had defeated previous missions as concealment and protection, turning the enemy's defensive advantages into opportunities for surprise and superior positioning. The first phase of the operation unfolded exactly as Maya had predicted, with her team moving through impossible terrain with the kind of precision that comes from perfect planning and absolute trust in leadership. Each team member executed their assigned role flawlessly, their movements coordinated through silent communication and shared understanding of objectives that transcended individual concerns or personal glory. The enemy positions that had seemed impregnable from conventional approach angles proved vulnerable to Maya's innovative tactics, with blind spots in their defensive coverage exposed through careful analysis of satellite imagery and creative interpretation of terrain features. Her mother's lessons about thinking beyond standard solutions proved invaluable as the team exploited weaknesses that previous planners had failed to recognize or appreciate. The hostage compound itself was a fortress carved into the mountainside, with natural barriers supplemented by human construction to create what appeared to be an impossible tactical challenge. But Maya's approach turned these defensive advantages against the enemy, using their own security measures to provide concealment for infiltration and creating opportunities for simultaneous multi-axis assault that would overwhelm defensive capabilities. The terrorist forces defending the compound were experienced fighters who had successfully repelled previous rescue attempts through superior knowledge of terrain and carefully prepared defensive positions. But they had never faced an operator with Maya's combination of tactical innovation and methodical preparation, and their confidence in their defensive superiority was about to be shattered through encounters with planning that exceeded their understanding. The first contact with enemy forces validated every aspect of Maya's tactical approach, with precision strikes eliminating key defensive positions while maintaining the element of surprise that was crucial for mission success. Her team moved with the coordinated efficiency of a mechanism designed for this specific purpose, each action contributing to overall mission objectives while protecting team members from unnecessary risk. Blackwood's coordination of supporting fires proved flawless, his redemption measured not through dramatic gestures, but through competent performance, when competence meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. His communications with higher headquarters maintained operational security, while ensuring that backup support would be available if circumstances required escalation beyond the team's organic capabilities. Castellanos's protective instincts, channeled through superior tactical execution, created the kind of security umbrella that allowed other team members to focus on their specific responsibilities without concern for threats from unexpected directions. His transformation from bitter survivor to protective teammate was complete, measured through actions rather than words, performance rather than promises. Kim's intelligence coordination provided real-time updates that allowed Maya to adjust tactics based on changing enemy dispositions and developing opportunities that hadn't been visible during initial planning phases. His cultural values of thorough preparation and respect for expertise proved invaluable in maintaining situational awareness under the stress of active operations. Rodriguez's experience provided the tactical stability that allowed innovative approaches to succeed, his veteran presence ensuring that creative solutions remained grounded in operational reality and sustainable under combat conditions. His quiet leadership complemented Maya's innovative planning, creating a command structure that maximized both efficiency and effectiveness. The hostage rescue phase demanded everything Maya had learned about leadership under extreme pressure, as 12 terrified civilians required immediate medical attention and psychological reassurance, while the team maintained security against potential counterattacks. Her ability to project calm confidence while coordinating complex operations under time pressure demonstrated leadership capabilities that transcended tactical planning and entered the realm of inspirational command presence. The medical condition of the hostages proved worse than intelligence reports had suggested, with several requiring immediate evacuation and others needing specialized care that pushed the team's capabilities to their absolute limits. Maya's contingency planning proved invaluable, as pre-positioned medical support and evacuation assets responded to requests that had been anticipated and prepared for during the planning phase. The extraction phase presented the most dangerous moment of the entire operation, as the team moved through hostile territory with injured civilians, while enemy reinforcements converged on their position from multiple directions. Maya's tactical genius was most evident during this phase, as her route selection and timing created opportunities for successful withdrawal that seemed impossible to outside observers monitoring the operation. The enemy response to the successful hostage rescue was immediate and overwhelming, with reinforcements attempting to prevent extraction through coordinated attacks that would have destroyed conventional special operations approaches. But Maya's planning had anticipated this response, creating multiple escape routes and diversionary tactics that confused enemy forces and prevented effective pursuit of the extraction team. The helicopter extraction occurred under direct fire from enemy positions that had been bypassed during the initial infiltration, requiring precise coordination between ground forces and aviation assets under conditions that tested everyone's training and commitment to mission success. Maya's calm command presence during this critical phase provided the leadership stability that enabled complex operations to succeed despite extreme pressure and immediate danger. The flight to safety carried the weight of mission accomplishment and personal vindication, as Maya watched the rescued hostages receive medical care while her team processed the magnitude of what they had achieved together. The communication from Pentagon leadership confirming mission success represented more than operational validation. It marked the completion of her journey from grieving daughter to operational leader of the highest caliber. The immediate aftermath of the successful rescue operation transformed Maya from returned veteran to modern legend, with military leadership recognizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary that would influence special operations doctrine for decades to come. Her tactical innovations were immediately classified for study and potential incorporation into training curricula, while her leadership approach became a model for officer development programs throughout the special operations community. Blackwood's performance during the operation completed his redemption arc, proving that people can change when confronted with their failures and given opportunities to demonstrate growth through action rather than words. His coordination of supporting elements had been flawless, and his commitment to honoring Isabella's memory through service to her daughter was evident in every aspect of his professional performance. Castellanos found healing through the successful protection of innocent lives, channeling his grief over past losses into positive action that honored the memory of fallen teammates while preventing future tragedies. His transformation from bitter survivor to protective leader provided inspiration for other veterans struggling with similar trauma and survivor's guilt. Kim's journey from desperate follower to principled leader was completed through his essential contributions to mission success, proving that integrity and competence ultimately matter more than popularity or political maneuvering. His parents' values of respect and thorough preparation had been vindicated through operational success that saved innocent lives. Rodriguez's veteran wisdom had provided the foundation that allowed innovative tactics to succeed, his experience ensuring that creative approaches remained grounded in operational reality. His quiet pride in Maya's accomplishment was evident to everyone who witnessed his interaction with the team during post-mission procedures. The rescued hostages provided testimony about their treatment and the conditions of their captivity that would influence future counterterrorism operations and hostage rescue doctrine. Their gratitude toward Maya and her team was overwhelming and genuine, representing the human cost of successful operations and the real-world impact of tactical excellence and courageous leadership. The international recognition that followed the successful rescue operation elevated Maya's status from returned veteran to global symbol of competence and courage, with Allied Special Operations Forces requesting training exchanges and tactical consultations. Her refusal to participate in media publicity only enhanced her reputation, as authentic heroes typically prefer action to recognition and substance to celebrity. The Pentagon's immediate offer of permanent Special Operations Command positions represented institutional recognition of capabilities that transcended normal career progression and entered the realm of generational talent. Maya's consideration of these opportunities was careful and thoughtful, balanced against her personal commitment to healing and her desire to honor her mother's memory through continued service. The base memorial ceremony that followed the mission's completion was attended by personnel from throughout the special operations community, with speakers acknowledging not just the tactical success, but the leadership transformation that had made such success possible. Maya's brief remarks focused on teamwork and the importance of honoring fallen heroes through continued commitment to protecting innocent lives. Isabella's memory was honored through the establishment of a permanent training program that would incorporate her tactical innovations and leadership philosophy into future officer development curricula. The Maya Torres Leadership Institute represented institutional recognition of contributions that had shaped modern special operations and would continue influencing future generations of warriors. The cultural transformation that began with Maya's return to active duty spread throughout the special operations community, challenging assumptions about leadership styles and creating space for different approaches to tactical problems and personnel management. Her example of quiet competence and dignified response to adversity became a model that influenced training programs and evaluation criteria. Maya's decision to accept permanent command responsibilities represented her commitment to continuing her mother's legacy through service to others, choosing purpose over comfort and responsibility over recognition. Her new position would provide opportunities to influence future generations of special operations personnel while honoring the memory of those who had sacrificed everything for the protection of others. The quiet ceremony that marked Maya's promotion to permanent command status was attended by dignitaries from throughout the defense establishment, but her focus remained on the operational responsibilities and leadership opportunities that lay ahead. Her brief acceptance speech emphasized continuity with past traditions while embracing innovation and adaptation to evolving threats. The final image of Maya at her new command post, surrounded by personnel who respected her competence and trusted her judgment, represented the completion of a transformation that had begun with hostility and doubt, but ended with mutual respect and shared commitment to excellence. Her mother's photograph occupied a place of honor in the office, serving as a daily reminder of the standards and values that would guide future decisions. The legacy of Maya Torres lived on through her daughter's continued service, proving that the most powerful tributes to fallen heroes come not through monuments or ceremonies, but through the continuation of their mission by those who understand the true cost of freedom and the responsibility that comes with the privilege of serving others. Maya's story reminded everyone who witnessed it that true heroism often develops in silence, that the most powerful leadership emerges from competence rather than charisma, and that the greatest victories are achieved by those who understand that individual success means nothing without collective purpose and shared commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The mountains of Pakistan stood silent now, but the echoes of that rescue operation would resonate through special operations communities worldwide, carried forward by personnel who had witnessed something extraordinary and understood that they had been part of a moment that would be remembered long after specific tactical details had been superseded by new developments and evolving threats. Maya Torres had taught her daughter that every mission honors those we protect, and Maya had proven that some lessons transcend individual loss and become generational wisdom, passed from one warrior to the next through shared commitment to values that matter more than personal recognition or professional advancement. The transformation was complete, but the mission continued, carried forward by those who understood that true strength emerges not from individual achievement, but from collective commitment to purposes larger than personal ambition. Maya Torres had found her way home, not to a place but to a purpose, proving that some journeys end exactly where they were meant to begin. The years that followed Maya's legendary rescue operation saw her influence expand far beyond the confines of special operations, as her methodologies and leadership philosophy began reshaping military training programs across all service branches. The Isabella Torres Leadership Institute had grown from a memorial concept into a world-renowned center for tactical innovation and leadership development, attracting personnel from allied nations who sought to understand and implement the principles that had made the impossible mission successful. Maya's command of the newly formed International Counterterrorism Training Center represented the Pentagon's recognition that her capabilities transcended normal career progression and entered territory reserved for generational leaders whose influence would shape military doctrine for decades. The facility itself was a testament to forward-thinking design, incorporating virtual reality training systems that could simulate the exact conditions Maya's team had faced during the Pakistan rescue, allowing future operators to experience the tactical challenges without risking actual lives. The training protocols Maya developed challenged every assumption about special operations preparation, emphasizing psychological resilience and ethical decision-making alongside traditional physical and tactical skills. Her approach recognized that modern warfare demanded more than technical competence. It required leaders who could maintain moral clarity under extreme pressure and make decisions that honored both mission objectives and fundamental human values. Blackwood's transformation had become legendary within military circles, serving as proof that even senior leaders could change when confronted with their failures, and given opportunities to demonstrate growth through dedicated service. His new role as chief instructor at the Leadership Institute allowed him to share lessons learned from his own journey while implementing Maya's innovative approaches to officer development. His classes on leadership humility and the dangers of unchecked ego became mandatory curriculum for all senior military personnel. The psychological impact of his redemption story resonated throughout the military hierarchy, challenging the notion that pride and position should insulate leaders from accountability or self-examination. His willingness to publicly acknowledge his failures and work toward meaningful change created space for other senior officers to confront their own shortcomings and seek genuine improvement rather than defensive rationalization. Castellanos had discovered his calling as a trauma counselor for special operations personnel, his own journey from bitter survivor to healing advocate providing credibility that no amount of formal training could replicate. His work with veterans struggling with survivors' guilt and operational trauma had saved dozens of careers and possibly lives, proving that personal pain could be transformed into purposeful service when channeled through proper understanding and professional guidance. The support groups he established became models for veteran services worldwide, emphasizing peer counseling and shared experience, rather than traditional therapeutic approaches that often failed to connect with military personnel who had experienced combat trauma. His methodology recognized that healing happened through community and purpose rather than isolation and medication, creating pathways to recovery that honored military service while addressing psychological wounds. Kim's rise through the ranks had been meteoric, his transformation from desperate follower to principled leader earning him command positions that would have been unthinkable during his early struggles with identity and belonging. His advocacy for respectful treatment of all personnel had become institutional policy, creating evaluation criteria that rewarded character alongside competence, and ensuring that leadership positions went to those who demonstrated both tactical skill and moral integrity. His work with immigrant service members and first-generation Americans provided mentorship that prevented others from experiencing the identity crisis he had endured. His story became required reading in diversity and inclusion training, demonstrating that authentic belonging came through commitment to shared values rather than abandonment of cultural identity or family principles. Rodriguez's retirement ceremony had been attended by personnel from throughout the international special operations community, with speakers acknowledging not just his tactical expertise, but his wisdom in recognizing Maya's potential when others saw only limitations. His final speech emphasized the importance of looking beyond surface appearances to recognize true capability, warning against the dangers of assumptions based on stereotypes or preconceived notions. The mentorship program he established before retirement paired experienced non-commissioned officers with young personnel who showed leadership potential, creating developmental relationships that transcended normal military hierarchy and focused on character development alongside tactical training. His influence continued through former students who had absorbed his lessons about the importance of substance over style and competence over charisma. The international recognition Maya received extended far beyond military circles, as academic institutions sought her insights on leadership under pressure and crisis management in extreme environments. Her guest lectures at prestigious universities challenged civilian assumptions about military thinking, while demonstrating that effective leadership principles transcended specific organizational contexts and could be applied in business, education, and humanitarian settings. The doctoral dissertation she completed on adaptive leadership in crisis situations became required reading in leadership studies programs worldwide, providing theoretical framework for practical principles she had developed through operational experience. Her research demonstrated that effective crisis leadership required emotional intelligence alongside tactical competence, challenging traditional military emphasis on authoritarian command structures. The humanitarian applications of Maya's tactical innovations proved as valuable as their military uses, with disaster relief organizations adopting her planning methodologies for operations in dangerous or unstable environments. Her approach to risk assessment and contingency planning saved lives in earthquake zones, flood regions, and areas affected by civil conflict, proving that skills developed for warfare could be adapted to serve peaceful purposes. The medical evacuation protocols she developed became standard practice for international relief organizations operating in hostile environments, incorporating lessons learned from hostage rescue operations to create procedures that maximize safety for aid workers while ensuring delivery of critical services to vulnerable populations. Her influence extended to humanitarian logistics, communication security, and personnel protection in ways that honored her mother's commitment to protecting innocent lives. The annual memorial competition that bore Isabella's name had evolved into an international event that brought together elite personnel from dozens of nations, creating opportunities for tactical exchange and relationship building that strengthened alliance cooperation and mutual understanding. The challenges Maya designed tested not just technical skills, but ethical decision-making under pressure, ensuring that participants understood the moral dimensions of their responsibilities. The competition scenarios recreated historical operations where tactical success had been achieved while maintaining ethical standards, demonstrating that effectiveness and morality were not competing values, but complementary aspects of professional excellence. Winners were selected based on comprehensive evaluation that included tactical innovation, team leadership, and commitment to protecting civilian populations. The technological innovations inspired by Maya's operational approaches revolutionized special operations equipment and procedures, with defense contractors developing new systems based on her insights about adaptability and multi-mission capability. The gear her team had used during the rescue operation became the foundation for next-generation equipment that emphasized versatility and reliability over complexity and weight. The communication systems developed from her requirements enabled more secure and efficient coordination between dispersed team elements, while the medical equipment she specified saved lives in subsequent operations by providing critical care capabilities in austere environments. Her influence on equipment development reflected her understanding that technology should serve tactical needs rather than driving operational approaches. The psychological support programs Maya implemented for special operations families addressed challenges that had been ignored or inadequately managed by traditional military family services. Her recognition that operational stress affected entire family systems led to comprehensive support networks that strengthened marriages, protected children, and created communities of mutual support among military families facing unique challenges. The spouse education program she established provided family members with realistic understanding of operational requirements while teaching coping strategies for managing uncertainty and separation. Her approach recognized that family stability directly influenced operational effectiveness, creating feedback loops that benefited both personal relationships and mission success. The cultural transformation Maya had initiated spread throughout the military establishment, challenging traditional hierarchies and creating space for diverse leadership styles while maintaining emphasis on competence and commitment to mission success. Her example demonstrated that quiet confidence could be as effective as aggressive assertiveness, and that listening could be as powerful as commanding. The evaluation criteria she developed emphasized character alongside capability, ensuring that leadership positions went to those who demonstrated both tactical competence and moral integrity. Her influence on promotion boards and selection processes created advancement opportunities for personnel who might have been overlooked under traditional systems that valued superficial characteristics over substantive capability. The international training exchanges Maya facilitated brought together personnel from allied nations to share tactics, techniques, and procedures while building relationships that strengthened coalition warfare capabilities. Her understanding that modern threats required international cooperation led to programs that created personal bonds between future military leaders from different nations and cultures. The language training program she implemented went beyond basic communication skills to include cultural awareness and diplomatic sensitivity, recognizing that special operations personnel often served as unofficial ambassadors whose actions influenced international relationships. Her holistic approach to warrior development created more effective operators who could succeed in complex political environments. The research initiatives Maya sponsored examined the psychological and physiological factors that influenced performance under extreme stress, contributing to scientific understanding of human capabilities while developing training methods that optimized individual and team effectiveness. Her collaboration with academic institutions created bridges between military experience and civilian research that benefited both communities. The medical studies conducted through her programs led to breakthroughs in trauma treatment and stress management that influenced civilian healthcare as well as military medicine. Her commitment to evidence-based training ensured that new techniques were rigorously tested before implementation, maintaining the safety standards that had characterized her entire career. The veteran transition programs Maya developed recognized that the skills acquired through Special Operations Service could be valuable in civilian careers when properly channeled and supported. Her placement services connected retiring personnel with organizations that needed their unique capabilities while providing education and training that facilitated successful career transitions. The entrepreneurship initiative she supported created businesses founded by veterans who applied military leadership and problem-solving skills to civilian challenges, generating economic value while maintaining the service orientation that had defined their military careers. Her understanding that transition difficulties often stemmed from loss of purpose rather than lack of skills led to programs that helped veterans find meaningful work that honored their values. The publishing project Maya undertook preserved the tactical innovations and leadership lessons developed through her career, while protecting operational security and maintaining respect for classified information. Her handbook on adaptive leadership became required reading in military education programs while providing valuable insights for civilian leaders facing complex challenges. The documentary series she consulted for provided accurate portrayal of special operations, while honoring the sacrifices of fallen personnel and their families. Her insistence on realistic depiction rather than Hollywood sensationalism educated civilian audiences about military service while maintaining dignity and respect for the profession of arms. The scholarship programs established in Isabella's name provided educational opportunities for children of fallen special operations personnel, ensuring that their sacrifices contributed to future generations of leaders who understood the true cost of freedom. Maya's personal involvement in student mentorship created relationships that extended far beyond financial support to include guidance and inspiration. The memorial garden she created at the Leadership Institute provided space for reflection and remembrance, while serving as a daily reminder of the values and principles that guided ethical military service. The design incorporated elements from cultures around the world, recognizing that the fight for freedom was a shared human endeavor that transcended national boundaries. Maya's influence on military spouse programs addressed challenges that had been inadequately understood or supported by traditional family services, creating comprehensive networks that strengthened relationships while supporting the unique demands of special operations families. Her recognition that family stability directly influenced operational effectiveness led to programs that benefited both personal relationships and mission success. The counseling services she established provided specialized support for families dealing with operational stress, deployment challenges, and transition difficulties, while creating communities of mutual support among those who understood the unique pressures of military life. Her holistic approach recognized that military effectiveness depended on comprehensive support for all family members. The legacy Maya built extended far beyond individual achievement to encompass institutional transformation that would influence military culture for generations. Her story became proof that authentic leadership emerged from character rather than charisma, from competence rather than politics, and from service rather than self-promotion. The principles she embodied transcended military application to provide guidance for anyone facing complex challenges that required ethical decision-making under pressure. Her life demonstrated that true strength came not from domination, but from protection, not from recognition, but from service, and not from individual achievement, but from collective success in pursuit of worthy goals. Maya Torres had proven that some transformations change not just individuals, but entire institutions, creating ripple effects that extend far beyond their original context to influence countless lives and create positive change that honors the memory of those who sacrificed everything for the protection of others. Her mother's legacy lived on through continued service, proving that the most powerful tributes to fallen heroes come through the continuation of their mission by those who understand the true meaning of duty, honor, and sacrifice. The evolution of Maya's leadership philosophy became the subject of intense study by military strategists and organizational psychologists who sought to understand how her unique approach had achieved results that traditional methods had failed to produce. Her emphasis on emotional intelligence alongside tactical competence challenged fundamental assumptions about warrior development and created new paradigms for preparing military leaders to face modern asymmetric threats. The case studies developed from her rescue operation became standard curriculum in war colleges worldwide, not just for their tactical innovations, but for their demonstration of how trust and respect could transform a hostile group into an effective team under extreme pressure. The psychological dynamics of her team's transformation provided insights that influenced everything from corporate team building to international diplomacy. The mentorship network Maya established connected young military personnel with experienced veterans who had overcome similar challenges in their own careers, creating support systems that prevented many of the destructive patterns that had historically plagued military culture. Her understanding that isolation and competition bred dysfunction led to programs that emphasized collaboration and mutual support, while maintaining individual accountability and excellence. The peer counseling initiatives she developed recognized that military personnel often trusted those who had shared similar experiences more than traditional therapists who lacked operational background. Her programs trained combat veterans to provide initial psychological support for colleagues experiencing trauma or adjustment difficulties, creating early intervention systems that prevented many cases from developing into more serious problems. The technological research Maya sponsored explored the intersection between human performance and equipment design, leading to innovations that enhanced operational effectiveness while reducing physical and psychological stress on personnel. Her collaboration with biomedical engineers produced gear that adapted to individual physiological needs rather than forcing users to conform to standardized equipment specifications. The ergonomic studies conducted through her programs revolutionized special operations equipment design, incorporating feedback from diverse body types and operational requirements to create gear that performed effectively across a broader range of users. Her insistence on inclusive design principles ensured that equipment worked optimally for personnel regardless of their physical characteristics or operational specialties. The leadership simulation programs Maya developed used virtual reality technology to create training scenarios that tested decision-making under extreme stress without risking actual lives or compromising operational security. These systems allowed personnel to experience the psychological pressure of life-and-death decisions while providing safe environments for learning from mistakes and developing judgment. The artificial intelligence components of these training systems analyzed individual decision patterns and provided personalized feedback that helped trainees understand their strengths and weaknesses while developing more effective approaches to complex problems. Maya's vision of adaptive training that responded to individual learning styles revolutionized military education across all service branches. The international coalition building Maya facilitated extended beyond formal military alliances to create personal relationships between operators from different nations who would later collaborate on actual operations. Her understanding that trust between individuals often determined the success of multinational missions led to exchange programs that emphasized cultural understanding alongside tactical training. The diplomatic initiatives she supported recognized that special operations personnel often served as unofficial ambassadors whose actions influenced international relationships in ways that traditional diplomacy could not achieve. Her programs prepared operators to represent their nations with honor, while accomplishing tactical objectives that supported broader strategic goals. The counter-radicalization programs Maya developed addressed the root causes of terrorism by providing alternative pathways for young people in conflict zones who might otherwise be recruited by extremist organizations. Her approach recognized that military force alone could not solve ideological conflicts, and that sustainable security required addressing underlying social and economic conditions. The educational initiative she sponsored provided opportunities for children in war-torn regions to develop skills and knowledge that would enable them to contribute to peaceful reconstruction rather than perpetual conflict. Her understanding that education was the most effective long-term counter to extremism led to programs that emphasized critical thinking alongside technical skills. The medical research Maya supported examined the long-term effects of operational stress on special operations personnel, contributing to understanding of how repeated exposure to extreme conditions affected both physical and mental health. Her advocacy for comprehensive healthcare led to treatment protocols that addressed the unique needs of elite military personnel. The rehabilitation program she developed helped injured operators return to duty when possible, while providing meaningful alternatives for those whose injuries prevented continued service. Her approach recognized that identity and purpose were as important as physical recovery in determining successful outcomes for wounded warriors. The family counseling services Maya established addressed the unique challenges faced by special operations families, including extended deployments, operational security requirements, and the stress of knowing that loved ones regularly faced life-threatening situations. Her programs provided both practical support and emotional guidance for family members struggling with these realities. The children's programs she developed helped military families explain age-appropriate information about deployments and missions while maintaining operational security and protecting young people from trauma associated with their parents' dangerous work. Her approach balanced honesty with protection, ensuring that children understood their parents' important work without becoming overwhelmed by fear. The transition planning Maya implemented began years before personnel actually left military service, providing education and career guidance that helped veterans identify civilian opportunities that matched their skills and interests. Her recognition that successful transitions required long-term preparation led to programs that began during active duty rather than after separation. The business development initiative she supported helped veterans create companies that employed military skills in civilian contexts, while maintaining the service orientation that had defined their military careers. Her understanding that entrepreneurship could provide purpose and income led to mentorship programs that connected retiring personnel with successful veteran business owners. The community outreach programs Maya established created bridges between military installations and civilian populations, fostering understanding and appreciation for military service while providing opportunities for meaningful civilian engagement. Her approach recognized that civil-military relations required ongoing effort from both communities to maintain mutual respect and support. The volunteer opportunities she coordinated allowed military personnel to contribute to civilian communities during off-duty time, creating personal connections that enriched both military and civilian lives, while demonstrating the character and values of military service members. Her programs showed that service extended beyond military duties to encompass broader community responsibility. The historical preservation projects Maya supported documented the experiences and lessons of special operations personnel to ensure that future generations could learn from their sacrifices and achievements. Her work with military historians created comprehensive records that honored fallen heroes, while preserving tactical knowledge for future use. The oral history initiative she sponsored collected first-hand accounts from veterans of significant operations, creating archives that provided insight into the human dimensions of military service while maintaining respect for classified information and operational security. Her understanding that personal stories conveyed truths that statistics could not capture led to programs that preserved individual experiences within broader historical contexts. The cultural exchange programs Maya facilitated brought together military personnel from allied nations to share not just tactical knowledge, but cultural perspectives that enriched understanding and strengthened international relationships. Her recognition that diversity of thought improved problem-solving led to programs that celebrated different approaches while maintaining common professional standards. The artistic initiatives she supported provided creative outlets for military personnel to process their experiences while educating civilian audiences about the realities of military service. Her understanding that art could communicate truths that formal reports could not express led to programs that encouraged creative expression while maintaining respect for sensitive subjects. The leadership conferences Maya organized brought together military and civilian leaders to discuss challenges that required collaboration between different sectors of society. Her approach recognized that modern security challenges required cooperation between military, government, business, and nonprofit organizations working toward common goals. The policy research Maya conducted influenced legislation affecting veteran services, military families, and defense spending priorities. Her ability to translate operational experience into policy recommendations provided lawmakers with practical guidance for addressing military personnel issues while maintaining fiscal responsibility and operational effectiveness. The innovation labs Maya established created environments where military personnel could experiment with new technologies and techniques without the constraints of formal procurement processes or bureaucratic approval procedures. Her understanding that breakthrough innovations often came from unconventional thinking led to programs that encouraged creative problem-solving while maintaining safety standards. The startup incubators she supported helped military personnel develop business ideas that applied military skills to civilian problems while creating economic opportunities that maintained the service orientation that had defined their military careers. Her approach recognized that entrepreneurship could provide both financial success and meaningful purpose for transitioning veterans. The emergency response programs Maya developed applied special operations capabilities to natural disaster relief and humanitarian crises, demonstrating that military skills could serve peaceful purposes while maintaining readiness for traditional defense missions. Her understanding that military capabilities represented national resources that could benefit civilian populations led to programs that expanded the definition of military service. The international development projects she supported used military logistical and organizational capabilities to deliver aid and assistance in challenging environments where civilian organizations could not operate safely or effectively. Her approach recognized that military forces could contribute to peace and stability through humanitarian action, as well as traditional security operations. Maya's legacy extended far beyond her individual achievements to encompass a fundamental transformation in how military institutions understood leadership, service, and the relationship between individual excellence and collective success. Her influence proved that authentic change required more than policy modifications or training updates. It demanded a fundamental shift in values and priorities that honored both competence and character. The principles she embodied became guiding lights for future generations of military leaders who understood that true strength came not from domination but from protection, not from recognition but from service, and not from individual achievement but from collective success in pursuit of worthy goals. Her story demonstrated that some transformations transcend their original context to create lasting change that honors the memory of fallen heroes, while inspiring continued service to ideals larger than personal ambition. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.